far north and south of our planet are the polar ice caps, the Arctic and Antarctica. These are cold and harsh environments for people to survive in, but they are home to many important species that contribute to biodiversity. Animals like walrus, caribou and polar bears populate the Arctic, whereas Antarctica's ecosystem is marine-based and hugely reliant on the vast numbers of Antarctic krill. This tiny prawn-like species feeds whales, seals, penguins and many other birds. But the major role of the polar ice caps is in their influence on our Earth's climate. The whiteness of the ice reflects the sun's heat back into space. The ice-cold waters drive ocean currents, affecting temperatures around the world. The polar ice caps are our planet's air conditioners. But as this ice melts, it shrinks and becomes thinner, reflecting less sunlight into space. The dark water absorbs more energy from the sun and the ocean continues to warm. Australians have a long and proud scientific presence down in Antarctica. It started with the work of Sir Douglas Mawson over 100 years ago. That's maintained today through 3 permanent Australian research stations on the Antarctic continent. Our lives may seem a long way away from these faraway places, but our continued burning of coal, oil and gas is now having a direct effect on these frozen worlds.
You can see the red line shows what the sea ice looked like at the Arctic Circle in 1979, and in 2008 when this picture was taken you can see how much actual sea ice we've lost. So what's causing the loss of sea ice? What's happening to it? Ewan?
Fossil fuels release carbon dioxide when they're burned, and that goes into the ozone and clogs it up, meaning the ice can't reflect the heat back into space, so it stays in the atmosphere and melts the ice.
The students have had a look at the toolbox and then they decided amongst themselves what areas interested them the most. So some are looking at polar bears, some are looking at food chains. And that way, because there's so much on the site, they can actually become engaged because they're choosing what they want to research.
If we lose the sea ice, animals will lose their homes, lose their fish, lose their place to rest and lose what they live on. And so it would be very difficult to them to find a new home and kind of restart their lives again.
At the moment, these students are actually learning with their class teacher. They're doing an inquiry on space. So this is looking at the atmosphere and the effects that changes in the atmosphere have on us and the environment in which we live.
Why is sea ice melting?
Mainly because fossil fuels and when we release carbon dioxide into the air and stuff, and sometimes when cows are fighting.
I think the toolbox is fantastic. It gives everybody a clear understanding of what's involved with the topic, and the photos are amazing as a stimulus because a lot of the students do learn visually as well.
What can we do to stop sea ice from melting?
We can spread the news, like we could have articles in the newsletter, we could have posters around, we could write letters to places like oil companies and coal companies.
Antarctic krill stocks have dropped by 80% since the 1970s because of global warming and overfishing.
We've been talking about the life cycles and habitats of animals, and when we decided to do Antarctica, we thought that approaching it from krill, which is central to the food chain, was a good way to go about it.
So now you know what they look like. We're going to draw a food chain and see if we can work out what eats what and what happens to the krill.
On the website there's a huge amount on the Antarctic animals and the food chain, so I adapted it down for use in grade 2.
What do krill eat? They eat this really, really small stuff called phytoplankton and zooplankton. What animals eat krill? Mostly birds, a few fish, penguins maybe, seals, whales, and even though whales look like they might eat bigger stuff, they actually do eat krill, just lots and lots of it.
The children do understand Antarctica, and as you can see there's lots of resources around that they can explore it further, especially with global warming. You can just touch on a little thing like krill and it makes it more apparent.
What can we do to help save the Antarctic krill?
Stop fishing for them and
Doesn't it get their food from the sea ice too?
Yeah.
So what would happen if...
Hi, I'm Tom and me and Annie are working together. We want to raise an awareness about sea ice and the effects it has on the environment.
So right now we're brainstorming ideas for our letter that we're going to use for other things too.
I'll be trying to use the letter to get onto the student radio network.
And I'll be using the letter to write to the state and federal government, to the resource minister and to the energy minister. What we hope to achieve from sending the letters and going on the radio station is for people to cut down on the use of fossil fuels like driving their cars around and using lots of electricity.
We hope that people should start using renewable energy such as wind turbines and solar panels.
Inuits live on melting ice. I wonder how they sleep at night. Global warming is so sad. The ice is melting real bad. People want to mine the ice, 'cause oil and gas has a price.
There's a very good reason why this room has restricted access. Inside are the controls to the heating and cooling for the entire school. Can you imagine if just anyone was allowed in here to muck around with the dials and switches? In the real world, we are fiddling with the switches. We're mucking around with our planet's thermostat by changing the balance of nature. The reality is that wildernesses, like Antarctica, are no longer remote. They may still be challenging environments for us, but our presence there is already being felt. Will we continue to destroy, or can we learn to change? The choice is ours.